Welcome to my American History Notes, where I talk about things I've learned from American history. And if you hear anything that I say, a name or event or place or anything like that, a book, movie, play, then I hope you'll study it and dig into it and see what's behind it all. And It's just a surface study, so really not very deep. Just want to bring things to your mind. And you won't agree with my conclusions necessarily, which is fine as long as you have your own conclusions and your own opinions from studying American history yourself. So let's begin. We're actually going to be right now. We're still on literature and things like that play an important part in our cultural history. And so during World War II, two news correspondents William Shire, Ernie Pyle, who was a casualty of the fighting, and A.J. Liebling become celebrities. Ernest Hemingway publishes his Spanish Civil War classic, For Whom the Bell Tolls, in 1940. Pulitzer Prize winning political cartoonist Bill Maudlin will win Pulitzer Prizes and gain fame for his World War II cartoons. Black author Richard Wright will publish Black Boy in 1945. Kathleen Winsor that year will publish Forever Amber. Journalist John Hersey publishes his accounts of the after effects of dropping the atom bomb in Hiroshima in 1946. Carson McCullers published A Member of the Wedding. James Michener will publish his first book and will win a Pulitzer Prize in 1947 with Tales of the South Pacific. In the next year, Truman Capote breaks into the literary scene with Other Voices. He will eventually write Breakfast at Tiffany's and In Cold Blood. Norman Mailer begins publishing in that year with the World War II novel The Naked and the Dead. You must remember that no one gets saved in these novels. No real conflicts are resolved. And in the end, usually there's a big question mark. This is not the triumphant appeal to the soul's longing for salvation from death and hell, but the unsaved man's blind crying out for any answer but the answer given by his creator. Black poet Gwendolyn Brooks publishes the collection Annie Allen in 1949. In the same year, Shirley Jackson will publish The Lottery. In 1950, science fiction writer L. Ron Hubbard publishes Dianetics, the modern science of mental health, and establishes the religion of Scientology, which will one day be embraced by many deranged actors, including John Travolta and Tom Cruise. James Jones will publish From Here to Eternity in 1951 about the attack on Pearl Harbor. J.D. Salinger will, in the same year, publish The Catcher in the Rye, another, quote, classic American novel about vulgar, unnecessary, and just plain disgusting topics. Black authors Langston Hughes, James Baldwin, and Ralph Ellison will publish in the 50s. Arthur C. Clarke will begin his stories in that decade as well. Eventually, he will write 2001 A Space Odyssey, crediting man's, quote, evolution to some far off and mysterious alien culture that leaves a monolith on Earth. The idea that life and civilization on Earth may have alien origins will resurface again in the Carl Sagan inspired movie Contact and in the sequel to 2001 entitled 2010. Popular culture will furiously attack biblical morality and the truth of God's revelation in the Bible. This constant onslaught of images and words will wreak havoc on an increasingly biblically illiterate populace. Read Numbers 33:52 in the King James Bible and see how images can be taken quite seriously by God. Also, pay attention to Exodus 20, verse 4. Essayist E.B. White publishes Charlotte's Web, the children's classic, in 1952. Black novelist James Baldwin will publish Go Tell It on the Mountain in 1953. Allen Ginsberg, called an American beat poet, will publish his obscene trash Howl, which is even considered tame by today's standards. American pop culture is in a severe decline. Beat writer Jack Kerouac publishes On the Road in 1957. John Cheever will publish The Wapshot Chronicles in that year. William S. Burroughs begins publishing his outrageous works in 1959, and like Ginsberg and Kerouac, will be called, quote, important and groundbreaking and an original artist. In 1958, when poet Ezra Pound is being released from a U.S. federal insane asylum, science fiction writer Ursula K. Le Guin begins publishing her Earthsea trilogy, which she will finish in 1972. In the next year, sci-fi writer Walter M. Miller will publish A Canticle for Leibowitz. Novelist John Updike will begin publishing in 1960. That same year, Harper Lee will write To Kill a Mockingbird, a story about racism in the South, which in typical liberal fashion makes the hero a white person. This will be repeated in several films, including Mississippi Burning, in which the real heroes of the civil rights struggle are white federal agents. And that's just my opinion about white liberals showing here. Under his birth name, Leroy or Leroy Jones, black poet and playwright Amiri Baraka publishes his first collection of poetry, prefaced to a 20-volume suicide note. He won't assume the name Amiri Baraka, Blessed Prince, that's what it means, until 1967. In 1961, Joseph Heller published his satire of World War II entitled Catch 22, and the title has become a byword for a catch and a rule. People will say that Catch 22 is, and then go on to explain how if you follow the rule, you will be unable to follow the rule. Now, we're going to talk about music and dance coming up next, then art, architecture, and then we'll be done with a special section on art and literature, architecture, the arts. Okay? Thank you for watching. I hope you'll study American history.